What's up, guys? This is AG Pollard, and we want to get straight to the point of this video. None of the people mentioned in the Bible actually existed. That's right, you heard me correctly. There is no historical evidence whatsoever that any of the figures mentioned in the Bible actually existed. See, those people were all made up. It was all just allegory. It was mythology. It's kind of like sun worship, because Holy Bible actually means Heliopolis Biblicus, which means the sun book. So it was all just metaphor about sun worship and astrotheology. The Jewish priests made it up. Or maybe it was Constantine, Nicaea. It was probably the Pope. Now, all of that stuff was just made up by the Vatican. The Illuminati. Now, wait. Before you turn this video off, no, I have not gone off on the deep end. Listen, if you have not already heard this argument made before, consider yourself blessed, because this argument has been making a lot of traction around social media, in videos, in memes, and the usual little outlets for things like this to get out. What we want to do in this video is just to take a few minutes to consider the fact, could this argument have any validity to it? Did the people in the Bible actually exist or not? Well, that's what we're here to talk about today. Does the claim that the people mentioned in the Bible never existed hold water? Is there any weight to that argument whatsoever? Well, thankfully, because of archaeology and history, original source documentation, the answer to that question is an emphatic no. According to Jane Cahill of Hebrew University, the most frequently voiced argument by those who challenge the historical existence of the United Monarchy, that is, the kingdoms of David and Solomon, is the supposed lack of archaeological evidence. In most cases, these arguments are either grossly misleading, illogical, disingenuous, or all three. Look, the question boils down to this. Is there any evidence to support the idea that biblical figures actually lived and breathed in history just like you and I do? Thankfully, there are literally mountains of evidence to prove that that is exactly the case. And keep in mind here, we're not talking about taking a verse from the Bible to try to prove the Bible. We're talking about sources from outside of the Bible, extra biblical sources that perfectly correspond to the biblical narrative. For example, we have Dier Alla, an inscription that was discovered that talks about Balaam, the exact same Balaam that was mentioned in the book of Numbers. This is an ancient inscription from outside of the Bible that corresponds to a person that's mentioned right there in the Bible. So just from that one example, the whole argument that nobody from the Bible ever lived is totally destroyed. But let's keep going. We also have 51 clay seals that were hardened by the fire that the Babylonians used when they came into Jerusalem to destroy it in the 6th century BC. Now, the same fire that they tried to use to destroy the city actually worked to preserve the little clay seals that were used on the official documents signed by the princes and the nobles and the people in high position. One of the seals has spelled on it the name of one of the people mentioned in the Bible. His name was Baruch. If you flip over to the back of that seal, you can still see Baruch's fingerprint on that piece of clay. Out of the 51 clay seals that were discovered, 26 of them perfectly correspond by name to people who were mentioned in the Bible. And we also have the Amarna letters that were written by a Canaanite king asking one of the pharaohs for assistance when he said that the Apiru or the Hapiru people were coming and destroying Jerusalem. That word Apiru perfectly corresponds with the word Hebrew. And of course, I've heard so many people in the conscious community, they'll ask the question, well, where are the bodies? If all those people live, where are the bodies? I always wondered, what's the fascination with dead bodies?
Y'all want to see a dead body?
But the reason why that question is irrelevant is because we actually know where many of the tombs and burial places of biblical figures are to this very day. For example, there's the tomb of the prophets where several of the minor prophets were buried. We also know where the tombs of David and Solomon are. We also have the ossuary or the bone box of Caiaphas. Now think about this for a second. This is the same Caiaphas that's mentioned in the New Testament as one of the men that served as high priest while Jesus Christ was being tried and crucified. And we actually have the box that his bones are buried in. Let that sink in. In addition to that, we have another ossuary or bone box that has an inscription written on the side that says, James, the brother of Jesus. And then we have David's palace. It's kind of hard to have a palace if you didn't actually exist. But even with all this evidence, it's amazing that you have people coming out, ex-pastors, and talking about how the people in the Bible didn't exist and there's no evidence for the Bible. And we've given you several examples of how that's absolute nonsense and that there is plenty of evidence that shows that the people in the Bible actually did live. When you have people like Kevin Wesley that come out and say things like that, the immediate perception of people is that, hey, this guy used to be a pastor. So he obviously knows what he's talking about. Because obviously, he studied the entire Bible and knows everything that there is to know about Scripture.
Also, Delilah ended up being another one of Saul's wives.
Okay, anyway, we also have the prism of Sennacherib that mentions King Hezekiah by name. We also have the discovery of the pool of Siloam, where according to the Gospels, Jesus healed a man that had been paralyzed for his entire life. Well, if all of this knowledge, if all of this information is out there, why is nobody teaching it? It's not like there's some ancient, invisible, supernatural, malevolent force trying to keep people from knowing the truth. Right? So yes, the people in the Bible did exist. David did exist. There's a mention from outside of the Bible of the house of David, his family line. Solomon existed. We have evidence of these people. We have documentation straight from the source, written in stone, as they like to say. We have the buildings. We have the monuments that are being discovered more and more. So what do we do with all this information? Now, I'm not expecting you to take this news and then decide to believe that there was a man 2,000 years ago from Galilee that walked on water and broke bread and fed thousands of people. But what I am saying is that if they were wrong about the people in the Bible not existing, what else could they have been wrong about? If the people in the Bible really did live, if these were really people just like you and I, real figures in history that walked and breathed and lived and experienced humanity just like us, then maybe we should take a second look at Jesus and who he is, what he means to us. Thank you guys so much once again for joining me and watching this video. I hope it's been a blessing to you and has added value and has been informative. If you like what you heard in this video, go ahead and hit that like button below and subscribe so we can keep you guys posted on projects and things we have coming up in the future. And also, last but not least, a great big thank you to all of those who have stopped by to consider praying and supporting us through our Patreon page. We truly appreciate you guys. Your support is absolutely priceless, and I just pray God's blessing on you beyond measure. So I love you guys. I look forward to talking to you again soon. Please feel free to leave a comment below, shoot me an inbox, and I'll get to it and answer you as soon as humanly possible, and look forward to the discussion. God bless.